John bolted upright in bed, gasping for air. His heart was racing and his sheets were drenched in sweat. He looked around his dark bedroom, trying to make sense of the dream that had just woke him up. In the faint moonlight filtering through the curtains, he saw something that made him freeze in terror. A hobo clown was standing at the foot of his bed, grinning at him with a wide, toothy smile. The clown's face was covered in garish makeup. The red and white paint smudged and cracked. His hair was a wild mess of orange curls, and his eyes were dark and piercing. John couldn't move. He was paralyzed with fear, unable to even scream. The clown just stood there staring at him with a mix of amusement and malice. After what felt like an eternity, the clown finally spoke. "Hello there, sleepyhead," he said in a raspy voice. "Did I wake you?" John managed to croak out a response. "What are you doing here?" The clown's grin widened. "I was just passing through, and I couldn't resist the opportunity to visit you. You seemed so peaceful, I just had to wake you up." John's mind was racing. This had to be a dream. It had to be. He closed his eyes and pinched himself, hoping to wake up. But when he opened them again, the clown was still there, grinning at him. "Who are you?" John asked, his voice trembling. "I am the hobo clown," the clown said, bowing dramatically. "The one and only." John couldn't believe what was happening. He had always been afraid of clowns, and now he was face to face with one in his own bedroom. He wanted to run, to scream, to do anything to get away from the clown, but he was frozen in place. The hobo clown seemed to sense his fear and chuckled. "Oh, don't worry, my friend. I am not here to harm you. I just wanted to have a little fun." John wasn't reassured. He was still terrified, and he couldn't shake the feeling that this was all too real. The clown suddenly reached into his pocket and pulled out a handful of confetti. With a flourish, he threw it into the air, and it rained down on John's bed.
Ta-da!
The clown exclaimed. "Isn't that just magical?" John couldn't believe it. This was like something out of a nightmare. He wanted to wake up to escape this surreal situation, but the clown just kept talking, telling jokes and doing magic tricks. As the minutes ticked by, John started to relax a little. The hobo clown seemed harmless enough, and he was actually quite entertaining. Maybe this was just a weird dream after all. But then the clown's tone changed. He stopped laughing and looked at John with a serious expression. "I have a question for you, my friend," he said, his voice low and menacing. John's heart started to race again. He had a feeling he wasn't going to like where this was going. "Have you ever wondered about the true nature of reality?" the clown asked. John didn't understand. "What do you mean?" The clown leaned in close, his breath hot on John's face. "I mean, have you ever considered that everything you know, everything you believe to be real, is just an illusion, a figment of your imagination?" John's mind reeled. This was getting too weird, even for a dream. He wanted to get away from the clown, but he was still paralyzed with fear. The clown continued. "You see, my friend, I am not just a hobo clown. I am a harbinger of truth, and I have come to show you the truth of your existence." John didn't want to hear anymore. He closed his eyes and prayed for this nightmare to end. But when he opened them again, the clown was still there, staring at him with those dark, piercing eyes. "You cannot escape the truth, my friend," the clown said. "But don't worry, it won't hurt. It will just change you." And with that, The hobo clown disappeared, leaving John alone in his dark bedroom. He lay there, shaken and confused, until the sun started to rise and he finally drifted back to sleep. When he woke up, he convinced himself that it had all been a strange dream, but deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that the hobo clown had shown him something that he couldn't unseen. And from that day on, John couldn't look at clowns without feeling a chill run down his spine. The moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie silver glow upon the dense forest that surrounded our campsite. The crackling of the campfire was the only sound that dared to break the silence of the night. I huddled closer to the flames, trying to shake off the chill that had settled deep within my bones. My friends Mark, Sarah, and Ben sat close by, their faces illuminated by the dancing flames, each of us wrapped in our own thoughts. We had embarked on this camping trip to escape the chaos of city life, seeking solace in the wilderness. However, from the moment we had arrived, an ominous feeling had settled over us, like a shadow that refused to be shaken off. Mark had insisted on telling ghost stories earlier, and as much as I tried to brush it off, his tale of the haunted forest had left a lingering unease. He spoke of a legend that had been passed down through generations, a tale of a vengeful spirit that roamed these woods, seeking retribution for some ancient wrong.
Come on, guys. Let's not dwell on those silly stories. It's just our imagination playing tricks on us.
I nodded in agreement, trying to shake off the unease that had settled in my stomach. I had always been a skeptic when it came to supernatural tales, but the atmosphere of the forest had an uncanny way of making one's doubts waver. As the night wore on, we retreated to our tents, hoping that a good night's sleep would dispel our unease. I zipped up my sleeping bag, the rhythmic chirping of crickets outside providing a comforting lullaby. Just as I began to drift off, I was jolted awake by a bone-chilling scream. It was Sarah. I scrambled out of my tent, my heart pounding in my chest. The campfire had died down to embers, casting long, twisted shadows that seemed to dance with malevolent intent. I could see Mark and Ben rushing toward Sarah's tent, their flashlights cutting through the darkness like knives. I arrived at the scene to find Sarah in hysterics, her eyes wide with terror, her words coming out in a frantic jumble. It took several minutes of soothing reassurances to get her to calm down enough to speak coherently.
It was right outside the tent.
She stammered, tears streaming down her face.
I saw its face, Jake. It was not human.
My blood ran cold as she described a twisted, nightmarish visage that had appeared at the tent's entrance. She spoke of pale, elongated limbs and eyes that glowed with an unnatural light. I exchanged worried glances with Mark and Ben, but I could see the fear etched into their faces. Maybe it was just an animal, Mark suggested, though his voice wavered. But Sarah shook her head vigorously.
No, it was something evil.
We decided to stay together for the rest of the night, huddled around the dying campfire, our eyes scanning the darkness for any signs of movement. The forest had become an alien world, filled with unseen horrors, and the safety of our tents seemed like a distant memory. Hours passed, and exhaustion began to take its toll. The fear that had gripped us slowly gave way to wariness, and our vigilance waned. That's when I saw it, just beyond the edge of the firelight. A figure, tall and gaunt, emerged from the shadows. Its eyes, twin pinpricks of malevolent light, fixed upon us. My heart leaped into my throat as I realized that this was the same creature Sarah had described. "Guys," I whispered, my voice trembling, "look over there." They turned, their faces drained of color as they too saw the ghastly figure. It glided closer, moving with an unnatural grace. Its features were twisted and contorted, a grotesque parody of humanity. "Run!" Ben shouted, breaking the spell of fear that had held us in place. We scrambled to our feet, abandoning the campsite and our gear in our desperate flight. The creature pursued us. Its unearthly wails echoing through the forest. It was as if the very trees themselves were screaming in terror. We ran for what felt like hours, our lungs burning with exertion, until we could run no more. Finally, we collapsed in a small clearing, gasping for breath. The creature had disappeared, and the forest was once again silent. As dawn broke, we made our way back to the campsite, fearing what we might find. But to our astonishment, there was no sign of the creature, no trace of its malevolent presence. It was as if it had never been there. We packed up our gear in a daze, not speaking of the horrors we had witnessed. As we left the haunted forest behind, a feeling of unease lingered in the pit of my stomach. I couldn't help but wonder if we had stumbled upon something beyond our understanding, something ancient and malevolent that had chosen to reveal itself to us. The memory of that night haunts me to this day, a reminder that there are forces in this world that defy explanation and reason. And I can't help but wonder if one day that creature will return to claim what it believes is rightfully its own.